If you while away the rush hour listening to relevant radio, you may have heard the sage advice of host Doug Hinderer, who offers guidance and support on the Marriage Unhindered program, which airs Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. The licensed marriage and family therapist has been counseling couples since 2016 following a corporate career in human resources. He's also created a marriage tune-up course and a marriage discernment course for engaged couples that can be used in conjunction with the Catholic Church's traditional pre-Cana offerings. His 2025 book, Rekindled Hearts, A Spiritual Journey to Marital Healing, addresses how to deal with suffering by turning to Jesus. Doug, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's a great thrill for me.
Oh, well, I think the pleasure is mine. Start with your journey. Tell our marriage champions how you started out and switched careers and what that was all like.
Yeah. So I think God put this desire in my heart to be a marriage therapist back when I was an undergrad. But my wife and I got married right out of college, and there was no money for grad school. And so I got a job in the corporate world, and then babies started showing up. We ended up with 9 kids, and it takes a lot of money to feed 9 kids. And
you have a baseball team.
I do have a baseball team. Yeah. But and frankly, marriage therapists don't make a whole lot of money. So you got to the point where financially I was able to walk away from all of that, from the corporate world, about 9 years ago. So I started back school shortly before that, and got this master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and then was able to make the transition. Worked for an organization called the Chicago Christian Counseling Center for a number of years, and wonderful organization, did some great work. And then when COVID hit, everything, the offices closed down, everything went virtual. And then I was able to go out on my own, start my own practice, which I did for about 4 years. And then one day I got a call from Father Rocky, who's the CEO of Relevant Radio. And he said, Doug, I think we need to do more to help married couples. And I said, yeah, I think you do too. There's a lot of work to be done out there. He said, good. He said, I'm putting you on the radio. I said, thank you. I have no interest in that. I don't know anything about the radio business. I don't want to know anything about the radio business. And I'm really happy doing what I'm doing. He said, great. We're going to start you on Saturdays for a few months to give you some experience. Then we'll move you to Monday through Friday.
You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, he didn't listen. So anyway, so my wife and I came up, we met with him, talked to him. And on our way home, my wife said, you have to do this, right? I'm like, yeah, I guess I do. So anyway, so here's how I am. I came kicking and screaming into this thing without any idea of, without a plan at all. But by the grace of God, it's working. People seem to like the show, and the content seems to be pretty good. And from the emails we get and the feedback, it's, we're helping a few marriages out there, which is what it's all about.
Well, I would say that it's definitely a success if you have the drive time slot, because that's the coveted slot, the Monday through Friday drive time. I mean,
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. I didn't pick the slot.
You earned the slot, though.
I'm entirely at the disposal of the will of God, and He put me here, so here I am.
Well, let's talk about marriage unhindered. So, unhindered. I've got it all confused with your name, Hinderer and unhindered. I'm sure there's a play on that.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you talk about on air? How do you even get started? I know you do a lot of prep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We talk about anything marriage related. So generally, I scour the internet a lot to see what's out there. I find stories. I find articles written about marriage, and then I'll take those articles and I'll read parts of them and elaborate and add my own 2 cents worth about what it's all about, and just to kind of tee it up. So each day kind of has a theme, some sort of a marriage theme that I talk about. Yesterday, for instance, there were those things that wives could do to make their husbands happier, and the day before that, there was things husbands could do to make their wives happier, right? So, and then people call in with questions or problems or whatever, and so I try to answer those online or on the air, and then people send in emails, and so I'll generally answer those emails on air as well. So between those 3 things, there's more than enough content. But yeah, I do try to have enough content so I can talk for the entire hour, which is really boring when I have to do that. But sometimes people don't call in for whatever reason, and then I've got to fill up the space. But when callers call in, the show's a whole lot more interesting, and it's a lot more fun to do.
Yeah. Well, you said that there are kind of three general areas that a lot of the calls kind of seem to fall under. Can you like unpack this a little bit and then maybe talk about the way you tell people to respond?
Yeah. So I think there's three legs to the marriage stool, at least the way I envision it. Three things, three skills that you have to be able to do marriage well. And the first is conflict management, right? Because listen, we have original sin, right? So we come into this world with a certain flaw and defect, and along the way we pick up a few other bad habits, like we get a temper, or we get selfish or prideful. And so we've got to be able to manage conflict well, because you are going to have conflict. And the research out there suggests that literally 69% of the conflict that couples have, you're really not going to solve it. 31% you can solve. So solve what you can and sanctify the rest is kind of how I look at it. So conflict management, spend a lot of time talking about how to handle conflict, how to communicate in ways where you can express your needs without being judgmental or angry about it. So that's one part. The other part we talk about a lot is how to keep the love alive, how to grow the love, how to continue to invest in your marriage, invest in your spouse, how to show up every day in ways that say, I love you and you can trust me and I'm here for you. And then the last thing we talk a lot about, a very Christian concept, is forgiveness. Forgiveness, our Lord was pretty clear. Forgiveness is not optional. It's a commandment. I mean, he didn't say, forgive people if you feel like it.
Yeah.
No, it's the Our Father. I mean, in the one prayer he gave us, he said, forgive others as we forgive. And so it's a commandment. But forgiveness is a really hard thing. And so we spent a lot of time talking about how to do forgiveness, because, couples I've worked with where they're good at forgiveness tend to do very well. And couples who can't forgive generally don't make it.
That's such an interesting topic. It's so timely and so relevant. I know I was just with a group of my friends yesterday, and I'd lead a little prayer group. And one of the things was talking about forgiving our husbands. And of course, and then we remembered that they need to forgive us too. Like, we don't, it's really hard. And we've all been married. I think of all of us, I've been married the least long, and it's been 30 years.
Oh my. Yeah.
These are all senior seasoned marriages, and we still say that it's hard to forgive. You have some tips on how to get better at it.
Well, for forgiveness, I used to realize it's a choice. We get to make the choice. We don't have to, right?
Right.
But it's a way to unite ourselves with our Lord, with His suffering, His cross, et cetera, right? And there's a whole process to kind of go through to look at how your lack of forgiveness harms you, right? And I think it was Socrates who said, holding on to resentment is like drinking poison, hoping the other guy dies. Right.
Yes, I have quoted that many a time, and it's true, but it's still sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's hard. It really is, because part of the fear is, well, if I forgive you, then maybe you'll keep doing it, right? Mm-hmm. And forgiveness isn't about giving permission. It's not about saying what they did was right. It's not about any of that. But it is about saying, I'm going to let go of the pain and the hurt, and I'm going to treat you well, regardless of how you treat me. And that's really at the core of that is, agape love. Right? This love that's unconditional and total. And so I'm going to love you even if sometimes you hurt me, and we're going to work through it, talk about it, but I'm going to forgive you and I'm going to move forward.
Yeah. Well, there was something you talked about, the International Forgiveness Institute, where you learned a pathway or some steps. Yeah.
So one of the things I try to do in the show is be very practical and give folks resources to go to. And the International Forgiveness Institute is one of those resources. You go online, I think the International Forgiveness Institute, probably.org.com. But they've got worksheets out there that kind of help you walk through, how were you hurt? How are you continuing to suffer for it? But how does your resentment continue to hurt you? And try to understand where the other person is coming from. And I think in marriage, I do believe 99% of the time when we hurt our spouse, it's not intentional. We don't wake up in the morning thinking, how can I be rude to my wife today? I know what I'll do. In fact, I'll go do that right away. Yeah, but we get thoughtless. We get careless. We get distracted, or we have a bad day or stuck in traffic. I come home, I'm kind of cranky, so I got to snap at my wife. So it's not intentional, and so I think that's a really good place to start. Is that you're not treating me real well right now, but I know it's not because you're a bad person. And I know it's not because I'm a bad person, but there's other things going on. let's kind of talk about that and figure that out and see if we can get to a better place.
Yeah. I liked too how you were talking about like breaking down barriers with you had your I feel phrase where
Yeah,
you explain to people because I bet that's really helpful. A lot of people have no idea how to even phrase something.
right, exactly right. And this is an idea that comes from the work of John Gottman. I think he calls it the gentle conversation. I call it the formula. But it's a three-part process, and it starts with the words "I feel," and then you talk about your emotion, and followed by "when you," talk about what your spouse did
Yeah.
or didn't do, and then you end it with "and I'd like to ask you to please," what you'd like him to do different next time. So, for instance, I feel lonely and frightened when you come home from work late, and don't call and tell me you're going to be late.
Yeah.
And I'd like to ask you to please call if you're going to be more than 15 minutes late. Oh, okay, I can do that, right? But you lead with your emotion. And the idea is, I don't want to hurt you. And if I'm doing something to hurt you, I'd like to know about it so I can stop doing it. And if you can be gentle in how you tell me that, right?
Yeah.
If you can tell me without anger and without harsh words, well, then I want to listen to that because I want to be the best husband on the planet. I really do. And if I'm getting it wrong, I'd like to know it. And if you can do that in a way that treats me with respect and that doesn't make me feel like a loser, I'm more likely to listen to it. So that's the formula is a way that I like to say it's a way to complain without blame.
Ah, that's good. I know you had mentioned before. It's a gentle way to say, "Hey, knucklehead."
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I've heard that word a few times in 45 years of marriage. My wife and I just celebrated our 45th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It was great.
Oh, and then sometime on is it Thursdays that your daughter joins you?
Thursdays. Yeah, exactly. And it's great. Father-daughter thing. She's a licensed therapist as well. She sees individuals primarily, and she ends up spending a lot of time working with adolescents and with their parents on what the issues are that their daughters or sons are going through and how to parent them a little better. And so we have a great time, a little father-daughter bantering back and forth. And that's a show that we focus more on parenting issues.
Yeah.
Or scars you got from how you were parented, from your childhood and how
Yeah.
you can heal those as an adult. So we have a lot of fun doing that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I bet that is just like a dream come true. Although with
Yeah.
9, I mean, to get to have that special time with that daughter, that's really neat.
It is. It really, I mean, all 9 of them picked a different profession. So this is the only one that's in, profession close to what I do. And we have, there was a little while she was living with us in between roommates and things. And we would play Stump the Therapist. And my wife would just kind of sit back and listen as we're kind of going back and forth. What would you do in this case? How do you handle that? And so then all of a sudden I got this radio show and I'm like, hey, we can kind of do a Stump the Therapist on air. And so it's really, I think I get more positive emails about the shows when she's on than when she's not. And it'd be easy, I think, for her to replace me. It's like, Doug, you're out. Monica, you're in. And I think people would be very happy with that.
Oh, well, and you feel like God has called you to this.
I do.
Can you share a little bit about why, you said, at your age, why you're still motivated to do this?
Yeah, I'm 60. I just turned 69. And this
No.
is not how I thought I would be living at 69. I was expecting to spend a lot of time on the golf course. And I certainly didn't think I was going to have a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday, or in this case, like 10 to 6. But here's the dangerous thing. I say a prayer every morning where I say, Lord, I give you permission to use me today in whichever way you choose to use me. Give me the grace to see your hand at work and to give you the glory. So when you make that prayer, he's going to take you up on that. And so, after I talked to Father Rocky and my wife and I met with him and I was praying about it afterward. And this thought just came to me, son, I've been preparing you for this your whole life. This is the reason you're on this earth. And I'm like, okay, well, I've been saying use me, so I guess I'm going to let you do this. So I suspect I'll be doing this for quite a while.
Oh, and you had said too that you told your wife at your funeral one day, if just one couple came and said you would help them.
Yeah. I mean, when and I will say this, I started back to school while I was still working full time. And, that used up a lot of weekends and things, and it cost money. And my wife has been unbelievably supportive through the whole thing, because it really kind of rearranged life a lot. And then I took a pretty substantial cut in pay when I left the corporate world and became a therapist. And she handled that well as well. But I did say to her back then, I said, if just at my wake, if just one couple comes up to you and says, you don't know me, you don't know us, but your husband saved our marriage, that, to me, and then it's all going to be worth it. And I feel the same about the radio show. If one couple can come up to my wife and say, because of your husband's radio show, we were on the brink of divorce and now we're really happy and doing well. Well, then I think that it's all worth it.
Yeah. Well done, good and faithful servant. That's.
I hope to hear those words.
Yes, I think we all do. I think every marriage champion right now is going, oh, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I am glad that you did bring up the corporate world again, because you have skills in public speaking and in developing human resources courses that you used to create some courses for both pre-married and the marriage tune-up. Which one would you like to talk about first? You want to talk about your pre-marriage class or your
let's do that. It's kind of the beginning. And back in the early 80s, the company I worked for sent me off to public speaking training, and then over the years, I became responsible for employee training and development. They sent me off to courses to learn how to put together training courses and to learn about adult learning styles and things like that. So all those things worked really well in the corporate world. Didn't think I would need them afterward, but then I did. And so once I was a therapist, I decided to put on a couple of day-long workshops, one for engaged couples, because there's a real need to help couples prepare well.
Yes.
And then one for married couples that I call marriage tune-up, to kind of, tune things up a little bit. Yeah. And I was doing them on Saturdays. Every other Saturday I would do a workshop, and I had access to a very nice training facility, and it worked great. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, all that stuff stopped. I thought, well, I'm just going to put it online.
Yeah.
And so I recorded it in my home office, me and a whiteboard and a camera on my laptop. So it's not real sophisticated. But I did it, and I put it out there, and I had a daughter who helped me, line up or work with the technology company, or I could put it out there on the platform, you put the credit card in it and make all that stuff happen, because I'm clueless on that. And so there we go. So we've got two of them. And in each one, I talk for, there's in the marriage discernment, marriage prep workshop, I think there's 17 modules, and in the marriage tune, I think there's 12. Each one I talk for 5, 6, 7 minutes, introduce a concept or a subject or a topic, and then there's a worksheet to help the couple either just reinforce the concept or actually have a really important conversation they need to have about whatever it is I was talking about. So you have access to it for a year, and it's self-paced, go through it as quickly or as slowly as you want. Some couples use it and do their own kind of weekend retreat. They go away for a weekend, and that's what they do. And so couples have used it in a lot of different ways. Now, so I will say this, the marriage discernment workshop, the pre-marriage one, I've had couples who have gone through it and broken up afterward.
Yeah.
Part of it's have some pretty serious conversations about some pretty serious topics. One of the things that amazed me when I started off as a therapist is couples, I have one couple that stands out. They married 3 years, and the wife decided it was time to start having babies, time to start a family. And husband says, I don't ever want to have kids. Never. She's like, well, of course you do. No, I don't. I'm like, didn't you ever talk about this? Well, no, I just assumed, right? So, I realized a lot of couples go into marriage ill-prepared. And so the workshop is designed to, give you skills on how to handle conflict, keep the love alive, practice forgiveness, and then to have some really serious conversations about what's important and where you really need to be aligned to make sure the marriage can work. So, so I've had couples who've broken up afterward, and I think couples who haven't have got a heightened sense of confidence that getting married is a good idea, and we've got a really high probability of success.
I love that. I know there's statistics about doing a premarital course.
Yeah.
Is it 30 or 40%, enhances your ability to have to not get divorced by somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I just love too that this course is really designed for people that are seriously dating. They don't have to wait till they're engaged and they're thinking about the wedding and the dress and the ring and the, all that kind of thing. That really it's for that seriously dating couple to decide, are we even suited to take the next?
And I think that's the sweet spot for this course. You can certainly do it after you're engaged, to be sure. But the sweet spot is when you're dating, you're like, this is getting serious. I can see this person as a potential spouse someday. All right, let's have this conversation now. Because once you're engaged, man, it's pretty hard to put the brakes on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that,
You're already you've got wedding bells and stardust and fluffy dresses and all that in your venues.
well, venue, right? You got money committed, and people are sending gifts and all this kind of stuff, and it's pretty hard to put the brakes on. I've known a couple folks who have done it, but man, it's really tough. And I've worked with a number of couples, and I've said, I think there's some red flags here. I want to encourage you to like postpone the wedding
Yeah.
until you get this stuff figured out. And I've yet to have a couple take my advice on that. And a number of them became clients a year later because, things weren't going well. So,
Yeah. Well, but I do like too that those that grow from the course and they realize, and then they can also feel, there's a lot of talk about, Gen Z and millennials, being afraid to marry, or
yeah,
especially millennials, because they're afraid to start that.
right.
And so this is a way that they can feel more confident in that they're even starting their marriage on the right foot. And I really like that.
Yeah, that's the deal. And I was talking to a group the other day, and I was doing a pre-Cana thing. I was doing a marriage prep course, and there were 6 couples. And I said, I'm just going to go out on a limb here, but I assume my guess is all of you have a high school diploma at least. And and I said, okay, how many of you took a course in marriage? Nobody. And did anybody take a course in physics? Yeah. Are you using any of the physics? No. So, we take a lot of classes that we're never going to use. The thing we definitely almost all are going to use is marriage, and we don't do anything to teach people what marriage is all about and how to do it well. So that's kind of my special passion, is to help couples do marriage well when they're getting started.
I love it. Well, and then for those who are already married, there's the marriage tune-up. And you said it's kind of a 2 different audiences for that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So that's for couples who've been married, I guess anyway, 5 years plus, 10 years. And it's like anything, right? I mean, your car needs to get tuned up, your lawnmower, anything needs to be tuned up. And it's easy to get into a rut. It's easy to get into a groove. And especially once you start having children, man, it's easy to take your eye off of each other.
Yeah.
Because you're focused on making the money, paying the bills, painting the house, changing diapers, doing laundry, cooking, cleaning, shopping. And you take care of everybody but each other.
Yeah.
And then you end up with what now is being called gray divorce. Mm-hmm. You get into your 60s and the kids are out of the house. You look at each other and you don't even know who you're living with anymore, because you just haven't done anything to invest in the marriage for the last 40 some years. And so this course is designed to have you reconnect and spend time talking about what I love about you and what I need from you that I'm not now getting, and what would make me really happy, and that kind of thing. So it's deeper conversations about, okay, what are we doing? How have we gotten off track a little bit? Which wheels do we need to put some oil on? What's getting squeaky and things? And couples who've gone through it, I think, have found it really, really, really good. And you got access to it for years. You can keep coming back to it, month after month, and say, well, let's go back and listen to this module or listen to that or talk about this, that, the other thing. Yeah.
Well, and that was one of those silver linings from the pandemic shutdown, that now it's all online and it is available for a longer time.
Exactly. So. Yeah, it's great. It's an opportunity to reach a whole lot more people, and people anywhere, not just people who can drive to wherever it is I'm giving a talk.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your book. You have a new book, Rekindled Hearts, A Spiritual Journey to Marital Healing. And you have another daughter that you partnered with on this.
Yeah. I have a daughter who's a journalist by training. And so, we went away for a week. We rented an Airbnb or whatever it is. We rented a place, a house out in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of the country for a week. Because I had all the content in my mind. I just wasn't sure how to lay it out. Yeah. And we got, big flip chart paper, pasted it on the walls and markers. And we laid out all the chapters and figured out the orientation of the book and how it needed to go. And we just had a great time doing that. And so out of that, then we had each chapter and wrote it out and did it up, found a publisher, and it's published, which is another one of those things. Like I never, ever saw myself in a radio. I never, ever saw myself as an author. And I probably, every teacher that taught me English or composition in school turning over in their grave, because I'm not one of my better subjects, to be sure.
Well, when you and I talked about the book and you were explaining the concept of it, I really liked it because for me, what you described is that you kind of took a framework
Yeah.
of all the training, your psychological training, and all the way you counsel and with couples, and you wrote a fictionalized story with Father Richard,
Yeah.
a priest who was the amalgamation of a bunch of different priests that
Yeah.
and a couple coming to him. So you have Father Richard saying the things that
Right.
you might counsel, and then the couple being, and I learned really, really well that in that sort of a genre.
Oh,
That
no,
is,
it's good.
I really like that. And so that was very interesting to me because I haven't read very many other marriage books that are put together that way. So
Well, yeah. And I don't know. Again, I give the Holy Spirit credit for like anything good that happens in my life. And when I sat down to write the book, I was going to write just your traditional marriage book, from me to you. And all of a sudden I was like, no, I don't know that that's the right way to get the message across. And then my daughter and I talked, and this thing emerged out of it. So it's in the context of spiritual direction, which is kind of a Catholic concept, I think, but where the priest is helping you lead a more Christ-centered life, a more virtuous life. So it's within the context of Christianity and therapy, both together, how they blend together.
yeah.
As he's trying to help this couple, actually two individuals
Yes.
who happen to be married to each other, but they don't know the other one is going and seeing the priest. So he's working both ends of this thing, trying to get him to, and I'm a sucker for a happy ending. And so, of course, at the end, they discover that each other's going for spiritual direction, and they're all in love, and everything ends happily. So that's the idea.
I really like that because that is very unusual in among the books in this field that I've read, and I like that. I learned really well that way. So
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I people have read it and said some very nice things about it. I have no idea. I don't think it's made the bestseller list anywhere yet. But
well, you never know.
You never know.
The marriage sheet is going to run out and purchase Rekindled Hearts: A Spiritual Journey to Marital Healing right now.
That's all. Scepter Publisher. There you go. Go to Scepter.
Well, you also in that as he's counseling in spiritual direction, he does talk about suffering, and you have some. You have it. I really liked too the way you unpacked suffering and anyway, because that's something nobody wants to sign up for suffering. I mean, that's just not something we say, oh, please let me sign up for that. It's like, oh,
yeah.
You had a really great way. I mean, you mentioned even the Lord's mother.
Yeah.
Spared.
Well, exactly right. I mean, suffering somehow is intimately tied to our salvation and our redemption. Of all the ways God could have redeemed us from our fallen nature, he chose suffering. I mean, he could have just snapped his finger, right? I mean, but he didn't. He chose suffering, and suffering somehow is so important. I mean, if you were going to spare anybody in the world from suffering, it would be your mother.
Right.
And no, I mean, she suffered there at the foot of the cross. I mean, think of what could be worse suffering than watching your innocent son tortured and crucified and killed. That would rip any mother's heart out of her chest, right? And so even Mary wasn't spared suffering, and the apostles weren't. All but one died a martyr. And so suffering is part and parcel of the Christian's life, and it's part and parcel of every marriage. And I think where a lot of couples go wrong is when the suffering shows up, or we're not getting along really well, or whatever. I'm thinking, oh, I must have married the wrong person because I'm supposed to live happily ever after.
Yeah.
And now there's some suffering here now. I guess maybe I married the wrong person. I'm going to get rid of you and go find my soulmate somewhere. And we need to understand the redemptive nature of suffering, that you can't run away from suffering. So let's use it. Let's unite our suffering with Christ's suffering and death on the cross. And then we sanctify it.
I had never really thought about it, about Mary suffering and how somehow that was important to the Lord, that some way you also said there's 3 ways a couple could benefit. They can just read the book, but they can go deeper. There's some ways to go deeper, right?
Yeah. So I tried to accomplish 3 things in a book. I don't know if I was successful at any of them, but you could just sit down and read it, get a cup of coffee and a cup of tea and sit and read the book. You can, you can use it to pray with. I wanted it to be a book you could take with you to prayer, and you could read a paragraph or a page or a chapter and then ask our Lord, okay, Lord, how can I apply this to my life? How can I apply it to my marriage? How can I apply it to my role as a husband or as a wife? And then I wanted it to be kind of a workbook. So at the end of each chapter, the priest gives the husband or the wife some things he'd like them to read, to think about, to pray about, to reflect on. And so you could actually use it as a workbook and actually work through the chapters. So I tried to do 3 different things with the book, and I have no idea if I was successful, but that was the idea.
Well, it sounded very interesting to me, and a really great wrap up of
Well,
all the things that you offer. Doug,
thank
it
you.
has been so great to talk with you. Thank you for
I,
being here.
I'm so flattered that you would want me to be part of this group. You're doing wonderful work out here, and there's a great need for it. And I'm honored and flattered to just be a part of it. Thank you.
Well, Marriage Champions, if you'd like to find out more about Doug Hinderer and his resources, you can always find us at marriageinitiative.org or marriageresources.org.